Good afternoon, everyone. I, Adyasha, on behalf of NEN and Vasanti Foundation, would like to invite you all for this webinar and also would like to introduce our expert, Vasanti Venugopal. She has trained over 1,000 entrepreneurship educators across India. In her 25 years of academic experience, she has built and led robust entrepreneurship programs on several campuses. She has been certified with honors in the NEN Stanford IIMB Entrepreneurship Educators course and EEDC from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. She is the recipient of the National Award for Best Entrepreneurship Educator in 2008. Before I hand over the floor to Vasanti, here are a few reminders for the audience. You will all be on mute. You may ask a question by typing in the panel provided, or if you wish to speak to the speaker directly, then you may click on the raise hand button. You will be provided the audio access only when the question and answer session will start at the beginning of the session. Please ensure to share the list of participants of this webinar once the webinar is over today. Over to you, Vasanti.
Thank you, Adyasha. Good afternoon, everybody. So I understand that we have few students here who have an idea maybe and would like to proceed further. And for every entrepreneur in the making, the ultimate is to write the business plan. But there are many things which precedes the business plan, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. Apart from identifying your opportunity to say that yes, it's good to go and it's time to write the B plan, what else we need to do? Like we said today, we are talking about building a profitable business model. I know this term is something like we would have heard of, but not actually understood what it means. So today, my session will have three things that I'll be covering. One is we will introduce the term business model. We'll understand how to build this business model and also take some examples of the existing companies and see the business models that they pursue. So let's look at what a business model is all about. As I said, you have to prepare a business model before, rather understand a business model. You don't need to prepare a business model. You understand a business model before you write the B plan. It's more like when you build your home, you need to have some kind of a blueprint in front of you to say where you enter the house, where are the other parts of the house going to be present so that you know you don't make no mistakes. Similarly, this business model is like a blueprint. It tells you what is it that your company is going to offer to its customers, how do you intend reaching them, and how do you want to keep in connection with them in the form of customer relationship later. To do these two things, what activities you need to perform, what resources you need to acquire, do you need to take somebody's help in the form of partnership, suppliers, etc. in order to achieve this. And at the end of it, finally, what we need to know is how much money are you making? So is it going to get you money at all? In fact, the term business model is something which is a little more recent. This actually started after the company stopped getting money from the VCs, because the VCs knew that they were giving money and they were not getting any return on that. This is especially at the Silicon Valley. So they were trying to find out, so they always asked, tell me where you're going to get your money from. What is going to give you money? Yes, you have a fine product. We know you have your customers, but how are you going to make that money? That was a question which was constantly being asked. So more often this term business model is kind of confused with the term revenue model. In fact, revenue model is only a part of the business model. But for VCs and other funders, when they say revenue model, for them it means business model. It doesn't matter what you do, but tell me where you're getting your money from. So now that having understood what the term business model is, let's move to the next slide to see how do you build this business model. If you remember, we spoke about from the definition, I mean, I'm not giving you the actual definition, but trying to put several definitions from various authors, and then this is what it means ultimately. Talking about 4 things. For whom? That means who are my customers? What is it that I'm offering to these customers? How am I going to offer this? That means the infrastructure that I need, the resources, activities, etc. And finally, how much of money will I be making out of this? So these are actually the 4 major components of the business model. Now these 4 components, try to put it a little more pictorially for you. First one being, what is it that I am offering? That is, in other words, called as value proposition. Actually, we don't need to be using these terms, but I am including these terms because when you write your business plan, we need to be aware of certain technical terms. And more often, words like value proposition, customer segment, core capabilities are terms which will be more often used in the B plan, and also funders would be asking you questions related to that. So it's nice to know these terms, even though it may not be very relevant for you to get the actual meaning of these terms. But here we are. The first one, we're talking about value proposition, which means what is it that I'm offering? What is the value that I propose to offer to the customers? That is this, the second segment. Then we have, how am I going to do it? That means the infrastructure I require and the core capabilities to do this. And finally, what is the outcome? That means the revenue, which means my sales, minus my cost, all in terms of rupees or dollars, and how much of profit will I be making on this. So let's take the first one. What is the offer? What am I going to offer? More often what happens is entrepreneurs want to give the customer something absolutely innovative, right? That's what Apple does. Innovative product, it is like, or it could be something like on a cutting edge technology. Or they might offer you products which you can customize, like something what Dell does. Or product which are already existing, but I don't have anything great to give, but I'm offering you the same product which can perform faster than the existing one, or it could be cheaper, giving you the same kind of service but at a more affordable price, or it could be a better performance product. So that means I have on one end absolute innovation, and on the other end a product which is already existing, but I'm giving you a different version of it. Maybe I can customize it to your needs, or maybe I can offer you a product which is faster, cheaper, or better. If you're looking at examples here, maybe if you're looking at nano car, put it into the innovative category, because he was supposed to be giving another version of what we call as a two-wheeler, right? I mean, for two-wheeler drivers, right? He said, like, for a family of 4, it is uncomfortable to go in a two-wheeler, so here comes a nano car. So it is actually a form of an innovation. The next, let's look at the customer segment. The customers, actually, you need to look at who your customer segment is, and depending on the customer segment, you offer the product. Because you might offer your products to a very small niche group of customers. A niche need not be only a premium product, need not be an expensive product, but it can be to a small group of customers whom you understand them very well. Maybe it is going to be, it could also be relating to age, not just the income group. It could be that you're looking at maybe a geriatric population. Let's look at maybe homes made, apartments and villas made for the old age group of people. So that could become a niche market, or could be a, so let me put it like this. Let me get to the niche a little later. So first you have a mass market. That means everybody and anybody requires your product. You don't need to differentiate between the age factor or the income group or the lifestyle, but then say this product is required by all. Or what you would do is, yes, the product is required by all, but when it comes to age group, maybe people in the middle age would require a different type of a product when compared to people in the old age. So that is when you segment the mass group of customers into smaller homogeneous groups and say, I would like to cater to this particular group. So getting again, mass is for everybody, whereas when I say segmented, it means for a homogeneous group of people. Then what is niche? When I say in that homogeneous group of people, there again you create a small group to say that I would like to specialize and serve to these segment of customers, right? Because they are a special group of people and they require this kind of a product. Let me give you one example here at the niche. When you look, I don't know if you remember the Deccan Airways, the company which was taken over by Kingfisher, and Kingfisher no longer is in existence. But why I would like to quote that as an example is to take away from your head that when you say niche market, it's not a premium market. It could also be the lower income, like middle income. That's what he did, right? He catered to the demands and the needs of the growing middle income population, the upper and middle income population in the rural areas, because he thought that they are the aspiration group and they would also afford to travel by flight. And that is the group that Gopinath tried to reach out at the through his Deccan Airways. I hope you got this point. Then let's look at how do I reach them. Yes, once I have understood who my customer group is, then I need to know how do I reach out to this particular group. That means how am I going to make my product available to them? How am I going to connect to them? I can either do it directly. That means I do an online sale, like in the case of Dell computers again. Or it could be an indirect channel. I mean, I use a middleman, maybe a wholesaler, retailer, that kind of a channel, and then reach out to the customer. But it depends upon my product. What is my product? And how do customers generally buy it? So based on that, we could use the channel. But here again, what entrepreneurs try to do is try to get a little more innovative about the kind of channel that they would be using. Take, for example, Amazon. How did Amazon sell its products initially? I mean, what did they actually sell? They were selling books. And how did we buy books then? We used to buy it in a regular brick and mortar bookstores, which means the bookstore had to be situated in the heart of the city where it's easy for people to commute to and reach out to. You need to have a lot of space. You need to keep that much of inventory. So, and it has to be, you need to make it look nice. So all these things mattered, which added cost. But Amazon said, if you want to read the book, why don't you buy it from me online? So that means there is very least cost is, I mean, he spent very little money in setting up the place to sell because he can sell it from any remote area, right? So he used the internet facility in order to sell the product. Then the third part of the customer segment is, do I need to keep these customers forever? Is it required? Sometimes it may not be, for not all businesses require a customer relationship. There could be exceptions there. But most of the businesses do depend on the existing customers for them to come back to buy again. The reason is because to service an existing customer is much cheaper than acquiring a new customer. And many of them follow what we call as the razor blade strategy, right? It's like this, Gillette. The razor handle is less expensive when compared to the cartridge because once to get on to the razor handle, then unless you buy that cartridge, it's going to be of no use to you. So that is some way by which you can hook on the customer for a longer duration to build this customer relationship. One is for you to resell, upsell, etc. And secondly, if you have new products coming in, it's easier for you to reach out to the existing customers. Like say, for example, let's take the same Gillette, for example. Maybe you have your shaving foam, you have your aftershave gel. So all these things can be reached out to the existing customer. So that is a nice way of retaining your existing customers. Many companies do adopt the customer relationship. Another example which I always like to quote is that of the Kaya Skin Clinic. They constantly keep getting, the group of customers that they have, the Kaya Skin Clinic is nothing but a high-profile beauty parlor, right? But what do? They want these customers to come back to them. So they engage the customer in such a manner that it becomes a series of sittings for them to get the services done completely. It's not a one-time experience with Kaya. And then also you need to buy the products of Kaya to upkeep the same skin texture or the hair texture that they have promised. So can you imagine, you first have to get on to them, sign up for about 6 sittings or maybe 10 sittings, and then you also have to keep buying their products continuously in order to maintain the kind of treatment that they have given you. And they would also offer you discounts for new products that would be launched by them, and also they'd offer you more services. So with one set of customers, see how they can engage and get their money. If you remember, we said business model talks about how are you going to make your money. So your money can be made by retaining customers, or your money can be made by using some innovative channel where you don't spend much, competitors would be spending, or maybe reaching out to a particular segment of your customers who nobody else has so far concentrated to make. Now, the third point we were talking about was, what is the infrastructure that you require and what are your core capabilities to do it? Okay, do I have the capability to do that? Or will I take somebody's help to deliver this? Let's get here to the first one. So here we're looking at what are my key resources. Now when I say key resources, we can go on listing in number. Let's say in order to set up a restaurant, what is it that I need? I need location. I need the right kind of infrastructure inside. I need to create the ambience. I need the staff. I need a chef. And I need the cutlery. I need marketing, several things. But when we're talking about the word is key resources, what is important there? What is it that you want to achieve out of your business? I'll give you an example here, since I've taken the example of a restaurant. Let's take two examples of maybe Domino's and Pizza Hut. Both of them ultimately serve pizzas, right? But look at the resources that they need. Let's get back and try to connect a few things. So what is their value proposition? Pizzas, right? Is that all? They are trying to talk about different things. Domino's says, I will deliver it within 30 minutes. Whereas Pizza Hut says, you come here and I'll give you the experience of eating pizza in my restaurant, where he creates an ambience. So what happens is the key resource for Domino's becomes an efficient delivery system. That is the key resource. Not that Pizza Hut does not deliver. They also deliver, but they don't make promises. But they promise to give you a good time. And that's the reason why they hang a bell outside their restaurant. So when you leave, you ring a bell to say that you've had a happy time. So look at the key resource between these two things. So that is what you need to keep in mind. Yes, human, financial, equipment, infrastructure, everything else is required. But what is it which is key? How do you want to deliver this? How do you want to reach out to the set of customers? So you would always find Domino's is not a very happy place to sit down there and eat, right? You'd rather grab from there and then go home and eat, or maybe sit on those uncomfortable seats and then eat your pizza and get home. while Pizza Hut gives you those nice sofas and very nice ambience, etc., so that you have the experience of eating the pizza at their place. Now let's look at this next part of this infrastructure and the core capabilities. Sometimes we may not have all the resources to do it because it works out very, very expensive. And as an entrepreneur at the initial stages, where is the money? Who is willing to give you the money? So you have to make good with what is available. So that is what entrepreneurship is all about, to work within limited and constrained resources. So what do? Try to look for partners. When I say partners, it doesn't mean a profit-sharing partner. It could be something relating to outsourcing. Like say, for example, Airtel. Let's take the example of Airtel here. What do you need? What does Airtel do? Okay, connecting people. I mean, they do several things, but let's take maybe the core activity for which they had started off was to connect people, right, through the communication system. So for which you needed towers, you need a good efficient billing system, etc. And you also need to add on more customers. What does Airtel do? None of this. They don't have a tower. They don't maintain the billing system. They have outsourced the customer complaint collection, but only thing that they concentrate is on customer development. Why? Because that is the key activity which they need to do, and all the others are being outsourced. Everything else is being outsourced, including their billing to IBM. Right? So try to see who has the capability of doing that, outsource it to them so that you can only pay them towards the bill that they have executed for the job done, and you can concentrate on the rest of the activities. Now let's look at the next one, which is the financials. So what do I need to do? Let's go back. I need to understand what are my key resources. I need to know what activities I need to do. How much of money is involved in that? I also need to know what is the channel of distribution I'm going to be using. Am I going to set up my own stores outlet? Then in which case I need money for that. Remember, customer relationship again comes with money. It is not free. You have to spend money on that. So how much of money is again required to create your product? So your innovation, R&D, production facility, marketing activities, maintaining customers, your equipment, financial, human, all these things involves money. So here comes to the financials to say how much of cost is required. So write down all the cost which is required for you to deliver to the customer. And also, how do you intend making that money? How is the customer going to pay you for? How are you going to get that money? Are you going to get the money upfront, or is the customer going to pay you after you have delivered? I'll give you some examples there to get a little more clarity on that. But first, let's look at the cost. Some of the costs are recurring in nature, right? Like say salary to be paid, rent to be paid, all these are recurring in nature. Some of the expenses are one-time expenses that you need for an initial setup. Like say if you have to start a restaurant, you need to pay for down payment or the lease upon the lease. You need to buy those equipments. You need to buy your furniture and fittings, which you don't need to keep on doing it often. Right? Maybe you may have to replace some of the furniture if broken, but that's only going to be after a certain period of time. But you also require your materials for making your food, which again is going to be recurring in nature, and those are directly involved in the number of items that you're going to be making, the number of customers that you're going to be serving, etc. So some of these expenses are variable, which depends on the number of customers. Some of the expenses are fixed, which is not dependent on the number of customers. For example, if I have to pay a 5 lakh rupee rent, whether I get one customer or 50,000 customer, I still have to pay the same 5 lakh rupee rent. So that is fixed, immaterial of number of customers I'm going to service. But the ingredients that I would require to make will depend on the number of customers who walk into my restaurant. I hope you got the difference there between my variable expenditure and my fixed expenditure. And again, between capital expenditure, the capital, I'm using a new term here, the capital expenditure are those expenses which I would require for an initial setup cost. And the others become recurring and or maybe what we would call it as revenue expenditures. Why do I need to keep track of these? Because I need to know if my fixed expenses are very high, I need to get very large number of customers to cover those fixed expenses. So that is the reason why we generally tell entrepreneurs to keep your fixed cost low at the initial years, because you are not making so much of money to cover the fixed cost. That is the reason why you find most of the entrepreneurs talk about running or starting their initial days of their company either from their garage or out of their bedroom, right? Working on the computer, or or it could be in the cafe coffee days, meeting up with people, because they don't have the money for such kind of lavish expenditure, right? And also they try to keep the number of people, that is salaried employees, to the minimum, because again that involves fixed cost. So if you're not making adequate revenue, you cannot afford to have high fixed cost. Then we look at how do I intend to make that money? When is the customer going to pay? Or how am I going to get the customer to pay for this? Let's look at some examples here. All of us are users of Google, right? And none of us pay anything to Google. Then how does Google make its money? Yes, I know everybody is raising your hands there, saying that yes, they have advertisements through which they make their money, banners, etc. Yes, of course, they do that. But when they started, who knew Google? So they made it for people, they made it as a search engine to facilitate our searching, so that they know there's going to be so many clicks or footfalls, and based on that, advertisements are going to come in. So now did you realize how are you going to make your money? So if you and I use, we are not going to pay, but somebody else is going to pay. So have you featured that in your business model to say, if these users are not going to pay, then there's somebody who needs to pay, otherwise I have to close shop. And we also need to know how the customer will pay. Here we're not talking about in the form of credit card or cash, but we're looking at several terms. Like say, for example, Flipkart. They know customers generally, especially in India, we don't want to give our customer ID number over phone or maybe swipe our card so easily. So they came up to say that how do we pay with on delivery. So they will deliver the product, and then if you're not comfortable about using your credit card, then you can pay cash on delivery. See how you have to, this is what you mean by a business model, how you have to integrate your working in order to get your revenue. Okay? So that is on one hand, and on the other also it is to see, can you get your customer to pay even before you're going to deliver the product to them? You think it's possible? Yeah, it is possible. Take for example Dell. That's what he did. So when he first started off, he said he knew how to assemble computers. So he said online, you configure what you want, that is you customize, and based on your configuration, he will tell you this is the cost. You pay the money up front, and then he assembles these and then he delivers. So who is smart? The entrepreneur, isn't it? So that he collects the money up front and he is able to create the product and then deliver it to you. So can you, in your business model, try and see if you can collect money from your customer in the beginning so that you don't run out of cash. You use the customer's money in order to make your own product and deliver it to the customer. Okay. I would like to know if there are any questions so far. If there are any questions, I would like to take them right now and then move on to the next session, because I would need to know what is your clarity on this.
Vasanti, as of now, we haven't received any questions. But yes, we have one participant who has raised his hand, and I would like to give him audio access so that he can put his questions directly to you. Mr. Prasad Reddy,
Right.
I am unmuting you. You may ask your question, please.
Yes, Prasad, you can go.
Mr. Prasad?
Okay, maybe if he can type, if he can't speak, if there is no audio facility there.
Possibly, yes. Mr. Reddy, can you please type in the question if there is some difficulty in accessing the audio thing? In the meantime, Vasanti, we have one more question from Akshay. He wants to know, would customers still go to Kaya Clinic knowing that there are so many sittings?
Okay. That is how they package it, because they tell you the kind, okay, Prasad, you have to go to Kaya Skin Clinic to experience what it is, because they tell you it is a treatment, it is not just a sitting. They do a skin analysis if you have, if you go in there even for a facial, they look at your skin texture and tell you that they analyze the skin and say, this is the kind of damage has happened to your skin, and you need to do at least a minimum of 3 or 4 sittings, and if it's pretty bad, even up to 6 to 8 sittings. So they will tell you right in the beginning itself that this is what you have to sign up for. And they will also give you maybe a sample of a free treatment, because sometimes they do that for you to get the experience of what it is, and then you go back to them. So this is more like engaging a customer. It's not a bait, okay? This is their method of engaging a customer to give them better service.
Okay. So anybody else who wants to have some questions, please type in, or you may raise your hand. In the meantime, we have one more question from Harsh Praneeth. He wants to know what happens if any business plan is not the best, since we are not best at documentation.
Okay, very good question, because generally students don't write business plans for various reasons, because they feel that they cannot articulate well. It's not a question of articulation, it is a question of how effectively you are able to put down at least these 4 points. Who is my customer? What is my product? How am I going to deliver it? What is it I'm going to get in the form? How is my customer going to pay me? How am I going to make my money? If these 4 points are articulated well, that itself is good enough. That is point number 1. Secondly, for reasons that entrepreneurs don't do enough homework to collect data, right? You need to get into the skin of it to try and get as much as information as possible to correlate these to say what is happening. And point number 3, I'm sorry to say this, but most of my students who come to me are pretty lazy about writing the business plan. And I've also got offers to say, ma'am, can you write my business plan? No, it doesn't work like that, because the business plan is your document and you have to write it. Maybe we can help you shape it a little better, but it has to come from the heart. Did I answer your question?
Hope so, Vasanti. Will wait for his reply. And Prasad Reddy has written down saying, a few days back I saw a transaction where one has made a transaction through the net banking, but the transaction was carried out on the next day. Why is that so? I think it is a pretty technical question, right, Vasanti?
Yeah, right. Not anything related to the business model, but yeah, these two kind of things do happen. So I think I'll skip that. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. So let's see what we have covered so far. We try to understand the meaning of business model, and from there we try to understand what actually makes this business model from the meaning of business model, right? So we try to look at it from 4 angles. And what are they? Who is my customer? What am I selling? How am I going to do this? And fourthly, what is it in for me? How much of money am I making? Now, as I promised, that let's look at some of the examples of the business model. Okay, types of business models that are employed. Okay, remember we spoke about niche product. So niche is, as I said, because it's a small group, and more often it works out expensive because it's a small group and you have to service this small group, right? And then also you need to know whether you have an accessibility to this small group. The example what I brought out here is the prevalent imaging system, which is generally used for large hospitals. I mean, this imaging system, you can use it elsewhere. You can, do several things out of it. But they prefer to remain and service and work only in the healthcare sector, where you require image-guided intervention procedures. Right? So they concentrate and they work only on this, and they don't want to diversify to other areas, but just here, because they realize that the size of the niche is pretty good, right? And they know that there are enough hospitals which require these kind of interventions, and there are enough number of doctors who are capable of doing this, right? So that is an important part here. So have you got that example of how you can service many people, but you decide to do only this. So that means you're concentrating your customer segment only to this and nowhere else that you would want to move out of, because you feel this is where you want to build your expertise and work on. The opposite of this is the long tail. You want to make everything available for anybody, and that is the reason why you can offer it at a low price. You can help more people find different products. So Flipkart is the best example for this, because you can find right from the very highest priced product to a lowest priced product. But for the company, what they do is they will know that very high products only very few people would want. So they'll keep a very small stock of that. Whereas low priced product they can keep in large quantities because they know more people can afford to get that. So this is how you will try to blend your cost, know your customers, the offer that I'm getting. Remember the scope of points that we spoke about? How you are integrating and blending that in order to offer it to the customers. And these could be the methods by which you could do it. Right? The other one is again mass customization. Let me go from the example to what it means, because it becomes easier that way. I'm sure most of you would have heard of this company called Myntra.com. What did Myntra do earlier? It was started by Mukesh Bansal, and he started more as a personalized product, right? So t-shirts in your name with your photograph, you can get your mugs, your coffee, your photo frames, everything you can get. And then slowly he realized you can do many more things and then offer it to more number of people. And he also at the same time, since he built that network, now he also offers branded goods which you can buy off his online stores. Okay? So all what he has to do is the key resources, what he requires is to assemble and then to deliver. Now what I've written the words, they're called modularize the products. I can give you one example. Like say for example, I mean it's a very simple example so that you can quickly get it into your senses. So if you notice, we have these dosa camps in Bangalore all over, right? All what he needs is the dosa batter, which is the batter which is going to be the base, right? And then he could have several fillings. So he can give you a spring roll dosa, he can give you a pav bhaji dosa, he can give you a masala dosa, he can give you a plain dosa. So he will customize it depending upon individual needs. So there is one basic product, and then you can go on, adding things to that or deleting things to that to make it customized. So that way you are able to reach out to a larger customers, but at the same time, you're not larger customers at the same time, you also are satisfying their needs, because that is a core point here. Then we have one more, what is the freemium, right? So what do? They offer you something which is free, but time might be limited, capacity might be limited, limited number of seats, right? So the best example here is that of Skype, right? You can maybe make Skype calls, but you know that the quality would be bad because you've not paid for it and you don't complain. But still, that is a facility that you could use. But then if you want better clarity, you want to make calls out of Skype, then it comes with a price. So initially up to a particular level, because they want you to get used to that, they offer it to you free, and then maybe then they start charging you. This again gets into the freemium part, gets in as a part of the example for how do you want the customer to pay. So if it is going to be free forever, like how you and I use Google, then money is not going to come out of this group of users, but you need to know where the money is going to come from. The other example what we have type is what we call it as unbundling and bundling. Sometimes what happens is you have a major component, right, of a product. Maybe you can sell the whole thing as one, that is bundling, or maybe what you could do is sell it into small bits and pieces, right? So that could be one such example. What I have here, I've given it here, is that of what we have here is this, right? Zoho. So they offer you very many products which where they call it as work online. He can give it to you all bundled together, or can give it to you in small different pieces. But what happens when you do that is you have the chances and the possibility of price. When you're bundling it together, you can tell him, okay, if you buy 3 of these products, then maybe there is going to be a discount, right? So that way you can sell your products easier to the customer. So this comes in as a part of what is the value proposition that I am giving. So this value can be related to the pricing and also can be related to what the customer needs, because I may not need XYZ because it doesn't work for my business, but I might need components ABC. So I'll tell him, give me only components ABC. So there is a possibility that the main product can be split up and given as independent components. Okay. Then let's move to the next one. No frills, right? So here what happens is, knowing that your customers will not pay high price, and so you have to keep your cost low, right? If you keep your, no point in promising a very high value to the customer when the customer does not want that high value, because the customer wants to pay a low price for that. So what should you do? Common sense tells us you try to be low in your cost, because how do I make my profit? My profit is selling price minus cost price. If the selling price has to be small, I cannot keep my cost price high. So I'll have to drive it by low cost. Okay, I'll give you some examples there. Yeah, I'm giving you an example of Air Deccan there because that was one good example, but at the same time there are examples of Lemon Tree Hotel, Ginger Hotel, where they offer you a low price, and so they have to keep the cost low, right? Maybe you want me to elaborate on that. I can give you example of Ginger Hotel in little more details. Ginger Hotel, let's look at it from what do they offer. They offer a facility of clean service hotels, okay, for executive on the go or on the move, right? So it is not a hotel where you can relax, there are no swimming pools, nothing at all. So he tries to offer you at a best price, right? And these are executives who are traveling constantly, and hence he expects a certain amount of expectations out of the hotel, because he knows this has to come on, right? So they give you a clean bed, a small bed, I think the size is not more than 8 by 8, a small refrigerator, he gives you a bottle of water, there's a clean bathroom with towels there, there is a soap with dispensing bottle, there's also shampoo with a dispensing bottle. Each one of the rooms have a 14-inch color television, which has all the with Wi-Fi connections. He also gives you there is a restaurant which is available there, but if you have to give your clothes for laundry, you cannot put it in you have to put it in a laundry bag and leave it at the reception. You cannot leave it in the room and say that somebody will pick it up for you, right? There is nobody even to carry your luggage to the room, because you have to do it yourself, because he does not have so many people running, so many employees in the hotel, right? So this is how he keeps it low. And also the cost low. And also what he does is, Ginger hotels are not situated in the heart of the city. You'll find them on the peripherals of the city, where the real estate costs are going to be low. See how much you have to take into consideration if you're going to call it as a no-frills hotel, right? Because you want to keep your cost low. Now, let's move to the next one. Or you can go to the other extreme, which is the premium, right? And you want to offer it to the premium class. How would you do that? So I'm sure you can identify with this particular pen there, right? Mont Blanc. And the other example what I thought of could be the birthing suits, right? Because they want to, because I mean, now everybody knows that it's going to be just 1 or 2 children, the cost of raising child, that you want to do it in style. So what happens? Hospitals create a special lounge for you to have to deliver the baby, and so it's kind of, and it's a special experience. So you have to pay a premium price for that. So this is what you mean by premium, luxury, etc. And we have another one, which is the open business model, right? One, of course, is the open source example of the Linux, or also it could be that of another example. I don't know whether you can see this there. It is an example of the movie which by Onir Dar, I Am. What he did was 400 people from the Facebook, his friends, funded for this movie, which was 1/3, which came in from them, the balance of the money which he put in. So this is what we call as crowd funding. So he got money from the crowd to make his movie, right? And then we have the next one, which is called as the multi-sided platform, right? So what happens is, I've taken the example of the red bus. Today it's a 150 crore company. So what he realized was, bus operators were customers also because they are sourcing for seats, right? So he said he'll offer for both, the bus operators as well as for the customers. So multi-sided platform. Google again is another example of a multi-sided platform. Why? Because it is both for the users like you and me, and also it is for the advertisers, so it becomes a multi-sided platform. Again, another example of this is eBay. That is again a multi-sided platform, both for buyer as well as for sellers, right? So here what you're doing is your expertise. What you need to do is to create that platform where these kind of people are going to be interacting, right? We have the last one here, which is a social enterprise. And these are enterprises on two sides. One can be a non-profit enterprise where you don't want to be making money but want to serve, create a social value. The other one could be a profit-making social enterprise. The examples here, what I've chosen are profit-making social enterprises. One is Senco, which talks about creating power in rural areas, right? Solar energy. And the other one is the 3S, which is going to be the Sharmik sanitation system, where they create mobile toilets. Okay, so then that is for money. I mean, it is profit making, even though it's going to be creating social value. They are looking at it as a profit making enterprise, right? And when you look at all these examples, I mean, you can do businesses differently. Like I said, pizza. You can sell pizza, you can make and sell pizza. It's not about the question of how one pizza tastes or maybe what is the stuffing that you have or what is the topping that you have. But it is more like how is it that you want to create and deliver this value to the customer. So like Tim O'Reilly says that there is no single business model. There are really a lot of opportunities and lot of options, and we just have to discover all of them. And then see which is going to be applicable for your business. You can do a combination of A and B and say that this is what is going to be profitable for me. I mean, there is no hard and fast rule that you need to stick to just one, or maybe try and follow one person. It is good to follow a person who does not even belong to your business industry. You could belong to a totally different industry, and then you can, follow them and say, maybe I like their style of running the business. To give you an example there, if you look at Arvind Eye Hospital, it is a social value. I mean, they created a social value of removing unwanted blindness. That's what he says. Eradicating unwanted blindness. And how does he do it? He does it by taking money from 1/3 of the people who can afford it to reach out to 2/3 of the people who cannot pay for it. That is A. B, he follows the system of McDonald's, of, the assembly line, of, somebody does this and then how you fry it and then you put it, and then it's like a process. So he says even the eye surgery is like a process. So it can be done in an assembly line sequence. And that is the reason how he is able to do so many eye surgeries. So that is what I said. You don't need to, emulate or adopt only your industry, but also look at some other industry and say that, hey, maybe that can be useful. I can adopt something like that for my own business. So let's do the last slide for the day to say that what did we learn today, right? Yeah, we looked at three things. One, we looked at the meaning of business model, what are the components and of building this business model, some examples of these business models. We almost looked at about 10 such types of business model. So the key learning here is it is essential to invest the same level of creativity as much as you would put in the product of your, as much as you would put into your product itself, right? You need to put it in your business model. And sometimes there are students who tell me that they have great technology. I mean, the idea is brilliant, but that alone is not enough for you to create a successful business. A combination of great technology and a superior business model can both put together be unbeatable for you. So now I'm open to any questions. So we have we started about 10 minutes late, so I can go on for another 10 minutes with you for your questions.
Thank you so much, Vasanti, for this nice presentation. Vasanti, we have one question from Saumil. He wants to know, we are reading a lot of lean startup methodology these days. Is documenting a business plan still relevant in this dynamically changing market where companies are finding success through lean methodology?
Okay. Lean methodology has got nothing to do with your business plan or documenting your business plan. Lean methodology means you try to adopt those methods by which you keep your cost low, right? So outsourcing could be one method. It could be, sharing a premises could be one method. Doing online could be one method. So that is what you mean by, lean method. That means you want to keep your cost low. And what is this business plan all about, right? The business plan is nothing but implementing your business model. Your business model in action is your business plan. So you have to write this out in a sequence to say that, how am I going to do it? Who's going to be helping me? That is what your business plan is, and that is what you mean by writing out, and once you write it out, that becomes a document. And business plans will have to be rewritten. Business models need to be reiterated depending upon the changes that is happening all around us. Changes will happen in the minds of the customers. Customers may not want to be doing this. Then how do I reach out to this customer? Part number 2, competitors might come up with something which is absolutely new. Then I need to work on that. Or technology might change. Government regulations might change. I cannot be sticking up with my same old business model which I started and the business plan that I had documented. No, they have to be written as often as possible, looking at the changes that are taking place. In fact, this business model, what you can do is, what I have given you, these 4 components, what I've given you can do it with the form. Put it up in your room, put it up in your office room, a huge chart. Put these 4 things over there and put in sticky notes, those post-it cards. Tell, who is my customer? This can be changed. This customer may not be relevant tomorrow. So can I take this off and put a new customer there? So put in these sticky notes and create like a canvas. If you go online and look for Alexander Osterwalder, right, business model creation, there is an example there as to how you can use it. He talks about it in the form of 9 building blocks, which is good because I'm talking here only about, I've taken all those 9 building blocks and then made it more simple in understandable language. But this is only a first step for you to understand what a business model is and see how you can relevantly use it for your business. So if you can do that, Put it in the form of a canvas. Keep changing that, because that will tell you the business plan, what I wrote yesterday, is no longer the plan which is going to be valid for tomorrow, because everything around us is dynamic. The market is dynamic, competitor strategies are dynamic, your government regulations are dynamic. So how can you stick to one old business model and say, this is what will work for me for the rest of my life? In fact, when Google started off, they were planning to sell the search engine. That was their plan A. But they never knew nobody was buying a search engine. So they tried to use the search engine so that they can make the money. So that is how it works. So it will go on changing, because you cannot have one fixed business plan forever till the end of your business. Never.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yes, Vasanti.
Was that okay?
Yeah, I hope so. Vasanti, we have one more question. It seems to be a generic question by Harsh. So he wants to know what it takes to an entrepreneur to start his farm.
Okay, now when you say farm, there are so many farms that we can talk about, right? Is it, can we
It's
be
a
a little
generic
more
question.
specific?
Basically, I think it's something like how what it takes to start up. Maybe something on that note.
Okay. First, it takes you an idea, right? Second, it takes you a lot of energy, gut feeling, and also a lot of homework to understand what is the product all about, who is going to buy it. Try and find out from your friends and your other neighbors to say, if there is a product like that, will you buy it? Ask them very sincerely, why would they want to buy it, right? And if those kind of answers are going to be more relevant to your product, then it's a go signal. And then try building this business model, because this is the heart of your business. This is what is going to tell you how you're going to make it. And then finally comes in your B plan. So to start off with a business, all you need is an idea which is explicit. Here again, when I'm going to say idea, don't talk about it as an idea for yourself. What is your product? But talk about it in terms of what problem is it going to solve for the customer, right? What happiness is it going to give to the customer? So why is it that the customer will buy? And from that angle, if you're able to give your idea, that might make more sense from your own product in the form of a technology terms, or doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense to me to say, hey, if you buy this product, this is the problem it is going to solve. Then it is good for me.
Yeah. Okay. So we have one question from Kritika. She wants to know how important is innovation in business models, like product innovation, innovation in getting to the customer, or how important is business model innovation?
Okay, everything is as important as everything. It is like that. Because as I said, technology innovation is important, because you need to offer something to the customer, right? That's the very first thing that we said. What was it? My value proposition. So what is it that I'm offering? So what is that innovation there, right? That's the first. What is the innovation in me distributing, reaching it out to the customer? So can there be some innovation there? So that again, innovation is involved, right? And also trying to choose that particular customer segment which is going to benefit with my product is again innovatively creating those groups of customers. So innovation is understood is a thread which takes the whole thing together, right? And as and when changes are happening, the dynamic world that we spoke about, you need to be creatively or maybe innovatively changing. If you read the key learnings what I have given over here, the very first, I'm sorry, this is what I'm talking about. The very first line talks about that, right? It is essential to invest the same level of creativity in an innovative product. I'm sorry, I think the sentence is all jumbled up there. In the business model as much as the product itself, right? So your business model innovation is very, I'm sorry, that sentence is a little jumbled, okay? It is essential to invest the same level of creativity in the business model as much as the product itself. That's what it means.
Okay. So Vasanti, we have one question from Dinesh. He says, what happens if a larger competitor or a giant company copies my model or how do I defend or prevent it as an entrepreneur?
Okay. In this open world, anything and everything can be copied, right? As long as your technology is not copied, for which you can, file. If you have take a patent right, then you can file on that, file a case on that. But also what happens is, if they are copying, that means your business model is something which is really worth it, right? Because they know that this business can be done in another form also. But again, on the flip side, if you're going to offer something that can be copied, then there is no way by which you can defend yourself, because you are not protecting your product. I mean, there's going to be a free entry. You are not creating an entry barrier for anybody into the business. So if there is going to be free, then quickly you will lose out on your customers. Then you need to know how quickly you can make your money in the initial stages, because this can be copied, right? So what is it that you have? What is your core capability that you have, which is not going to allow your competitors to copy, is what is the strength of your business, right? I'll give you one example here. Let's take the example of the Bombay Dabbawalas. I mean, what do? Right? You know that it's going to be, or you can talk about Six Sigma, everything else, but you know that it's going to be just, what is the business? Delivery of food right on time, right? Lunch boxes on time, different locations, different places, different customers, right? Is it easy to copy that? Anybody can do that, right? Because the kind of money with the giants that we spoke about have, they can do it. But why is it they cannot do it? Because of the capability of the small group of the community of people who are going to deliver it. Because he brings these people from his village. And for them, it is going to be getting a new lease of life, seeing the city and making that kind of money for the family. So for them, they're working together as a community to satisfy the needs, right? So that is the success of their business model. So you need to identify what is the success of your business model, which nobody else can copy. That is where your success lies.
Right, Vasanti. So we have one more question from Ganga. She wants to know, at what stage of the enterprise life cycle business model becomes paramount importance?
Business model is required right at every stage, right from the time, the initial stages of you wanting to launch the product. You need to know who's your customer, what is it you have, how do you do it, what is it, how much of money will I make in the beginning, right? And as and when things keep changing, you might add more features to your product. There again, your business model changes. So there's a constantly what we call as a reiteration of business model as many times that you keep selling your product. So these two things are not static. Business model, business plan are not static. They are as dynamic as the environment.
Right. So Vasanti, we have one more question from Manu Arora. He wants to know, is it really important to get a partner for your startup? Vasanti? Vasanti? Vasanti, did we lose you? Vasanti? It seems to have, we are having some technical issues, and we're extremely sorry for that. We hope the session was interesting. Thank you very much, Vasanti, if you can hear me. Thank you to all our participants, attendees. We are glad that the questions kept coming, and due to lack of time and also for the technical issues, some questions left unanswered. Please do send in your feedback and suggestion to us, and also please write back your questions so that we can reply to you individually, whatever questions you have. Okay. So you can send your feedback, questions, suggestions to adyasha@enianglobal.org. It's adyasha@nenglobal.org. I repeat, it's adyasha@nenglobal.org. Also, if you found the session interesting, feel free to blog or post about it. The recorded version of this webinar will be available on the youtube.com/user eClub online by Saturday. We will share the details of our next webinar very soon.
I don't know.
Vasanti, are you back?
Adyasha?
Yes.
I think I lost the connection in the middle, so was it okay?
Yeah, I was just about
Did I answer all the questions?
Almost all. We were just wrapping it up. So,
Okay.
So I think we are almost done. And in case there are any more questions, we will be taking it offline, Vasanti.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your patient hearing and also for the interactive questions.
Yeah. Dear participant, please send us a list of participants along all the students or faculty who have been attending with you to this particular ID, adyasha@nenglobal.org, as I have mentioned before. Thank you once again for attending this and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all.